We are back on Patriots Fourth and Two, the official podcast, PatsFans.com. I'm Russ Coleman. Joining me, as always, is Steve Balistrieri in the Secret Square and Derek Havens. We are live on Facebook, and also we are live on Twitter on the Patriots Fourth and Two Twitter account. One of the reasons why I say that is to please do subscribe. Actually, we're not live on YouTube, but please do subscribe to our PatsFans.com YouTube channel, and also subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It does help other Patriots fans find us. Please do that. All right, guys, before we get going and talking about the game, I do have something that I just want to give a shout out to. Today is my daughter Sammy's 19th birthday, so I want to wish her a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Sammy.
She turns 19 today, and as I probably said in the show, and I'll just say one more time because it embarrasses her every time I tell her that she was born the next day, today. The day prior was 19 years ago, the divisional round playoff game between the Patriots and the Titans.
That's his favorite year.
My favorite season, yes.
That's right.
So
sorry, Brady. She does have a favorite. It's unfortunate. I don't know what to tell you. That's crazy. We've been doing the show for so long. When she was 7-8 years old when we first started doing the show.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, I'm 19 now. Okay, enough of that. She already heard that, and she's not happy. So let's move on.
It's fine. That's your right as a parent to embarrass your kids. That's the only reason I'm going to have kids, just to make fun of them. It's just perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unfortunately, in my house, Derek, it's the other way around.
Yes.
Trust me on that. It's the other way around. I'm known as Peyton Manning head, so we'll just leave it at that. Okay. Let's get going, guys. Let's talk about this game. And just give us your opening thoughts. We'll just go to opening thoughts. We'll break down the game, talk about the special teams, defense, offense, all that. Mac Jones, I want to talk about all of it. Just let's just get your opening thoughts. I'll just mention this. I'm not doing this to embarrass Derek, but Derek was very upset early in this game in a little message chat between the three of us. So we'll just leave it at that. Derek, your opening thoughts. Did your mood change after that?
No, I mean, all I said was I hope the team gets embarrassed. And the reason I said that was because I got very emotional at the beginning of this game because it was so frustrating just how the whole game broke down. I told Steve right after the game ended, normally coaches speak in these coaching cliches and they say, well, the game was lost on a handful of plays. Well, I truly believe this game was lost on just a handful of plays. And, you have two kickoff breakdowns, which special teams have been an issue for 2 years. I want to circle back to that at some point during the show.
We will.
Evan Lazar from Patriots.com, friend of the show, had said for weeks about how the kickoff coverage, he was kind of gripping his seat every single time there was a kickoff because the coverage has been so poor. And Nyheim Hines took advantage of that, not once, but twice. The Patriots, there's only 6 kickoff returns all regular season allowed by the entire league, and the Patriots let up 2 in the same game. They let up half of them the entire year. Just unacceptable. And anyway, you can't spot one of the best teams 14 points. I don't care where you want to rank them. Do that on your own time. You can't give one of the best teams in the league 14 points and expect to win that game. And then you had 2 unreal Josh Allen throws. He's an incredible player. He is exciting to watch. It just sucks. It's just, he's in your division and he's a big obstacle for you to deal with. I just felt like the Patriots played okay. I thought Matt Patricia maybe called his best game of the season. I also want to circle back to that at some point. Yeah. And honestly, guys, it just came down to a handful of plays and the Bills were just better. And I thought the Patriots, if they could have not allowed those 2 deep passes and not allowed those 2 kickoff returns, I think maybe the Patriots win this between 7 and 10 points. But, that's just why they play the games. They're not played on paper. So,
right. They're not played on paper, Derek. And if you look at it, like you said, I agree with a good amount that you said. I think I disagree that the Bills were better. I just think that the Bills made more plays. The plays that won the game. That's the way I look at it. Right? I wouldn't say that they were better. In fact, I don't think that they were that great, and I think the Patriots made them look that way. So
to your point, Russ, I also think that I did think like Josh Allen and the Bills looked a little slow outside of that obviously opening return, which was storybook, right? But some of the emotions, some of the things we talked about. I'm not even blaming them for that. I totally understand it. We talked about it last week. I thought some of that actually came into play where they did look shaky.
I agree, Derek. That's actually a good point. That was part of the reason why I picked the Patriots. Steve, over to you. You're just opening thoughts on the loss. Feel free to chime in on what Derek and I are talking about.
Yeah, I agree with almost all of what Derek was saying. Because, again, I mean, we knew the emotions were going to be sky high at the beginning of that game. The adrenaline was going to be pumping. The crowd, that's always a loud crowd anyway, but they were especially loud early in the game. And to give up the opening kickoff for a touchdown, when you're an offensively challenged team and you're playing one of the best offenses in the NFL, that's not the way to start. As I texted both of you guys, it's not the way to start off a football game. It just isn't. And to Derek's point, he talked about that adrenaline burning off. And I think we saw that, at the end of the first quarter, the Bills got the ball back. Allen got sacked. And then the Patriots, on their second possession, went right down the field and scored. And it was a really good looking drive. And I'm like, okay, maybe that adrenaline stuff has burned off. And again, they went into halftime tied. And I think the way they went into halftime, I thought they pressured Allen. They forced an interception. They hadn't intercepted him. And I think it was almost 200 attempts.
Right.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. It's been a very long while. So you snuff out a drive at the end of the half, and you go into halftime tied. I'm thinking, hey, they have a chance to actually steal this game. And in the third quarter, they actually went right ahead. They went ahead on a field goal, which we can get into, whether or not there should have been pass interference in the end zone.
I thought the officials were horrendous for both sides.
They were horrendous.
I have some thoughts on that, guys.
But we'll get into that.
We'll get into that because I want to talk about the officials and how they played this game, because I think they had an idea of how they wanted to do it. Go ahead, Steve.
They kicked the field goal. They're ahead in the third quarter. And, I'm thinking, hey, they're starting to actually play on par with Buffalo in Buffalo's house, and it's not a weather event. And then they kick the ball off, and you could sense the air get sucked right out of the Patriots sideline.
Yep.
I mean, that was the first one was bad.
Second one was worse.
Second one was killer.
That to me was the difference in the game. I want to go there, guys, because
I thought that was the turning point in the game.
I agree.
Because at that point, the Patriots had battled back against the Bills, and they had only allowed one offensive touchdown going into the third quarter, and they were ahead. And then everything changed, and sooner or later, Buffalo's offense is going to get untracked. And I thought the Patriots' offense and the defense both played well enough to steal a win there. I'm not saying they dominated, which they didn't on either side. But I thought those two things
competed, Steve.
They competed, and they were playing well enough to win the football game.
Yeah.
And I think special teams really let them down there. And, as much as we've talked about Matt Patricia, but he did call a really good game. There was a couple of calls there that I didn't like, but I mean, we did that for 15 years with Josh McDaniels too. So
good point. Let's focus on the special teams, because I think this is where the game was lost. I also want to throw in the squib kick, guys. The squib kick. Okay. I mean, that is just
that was coaching scared.
Putting salt on the wound. The squib kick.
But they did it because they were scared. They didn't have any faith in the coverage,
Of course.
So they were like, well, I mean, when you make that decision, you understand that there's a chance it's going to roll out of bounds. Like, you have to understand that there's a good chance that the ball could bounce and go out of bounds. And they figured, hey, we'd rather spot Josh Allen and the Bills with the 40 than just kick, than just kick it. I don't want to dunk on Pilardi too much, because I understand he is a backup punter, okay, but I don't understand how he was the best they could do and they settled with him the entire year. I just don't understand how they got to that point.
Yeah.
I don't understand the coverage. Both those things are two different. One's a physical talent. The other one is a scheme and design and coaching. I don't understand the special teams breakdowns that they've had for 2 years. It's just unacceptable to me. I know Cam McCord is under a lot of fire from a lot of Patriots fans and media, and I think it's deserved. I will say that I don't expect to see like some announcement that he's going to get fired. I just don't think that's Bill's style. But I also don't think he should, remain on the staff because I think that he's really, really hurt this team the last 2 years. I mean, they've been one of the worst by statistically.
Derek, when's
this
the
year,
last time Bill has fired a coach? He'll be reassigned, if anything.
Yeah, he should be reassigned or maybe more of a quiet thing. However you want to do it, I'm not sure. But you've had the most blocked punts in the league the last 2 years. You let up 3 kickoff returns this year, which was half the NFL, literally for the entire season, for the entire league. They had one of the worst punting averages in the entire NFL this season, if not the worst. I mean, they have been really, really bad for a couple of years now. And this is the team that emphasizes that phase of the game and has put a lot of money into that phase of the game. I know it's not an acceptable thing. I'm sure in Foxborough, I'm sure Bill knows the issues, but to me, it would be negligent to keep McCord in that same role because I think we've seen now on a large size that he just can't get the job done. And you have someone, by the way, on your staff who excelled at it, who was probably miscast in a role in Joe Judge, who could go back to it. And I think that's the way it should go, in my opinion.
I'm not going to disagree with you, Derek. Let's move on, and because I want to definitely get to big picture stuff in the second half of the show, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about the game, but I do want to talk about all the units. Let's talk about defense. Steve, I want to go to you because I want to talk to you a little bit about this. Now, I've watched Josh Allen destroy the Patriots for several games now. I know we're talking about the motion. Derek brought that up, that maybe that's a factor in here. I think if we factor that too much, we're taking away from the performance here of the Patriots defense. They made there's a Goldman for it. They made Josh Allen look uncomfortable at times. He did have these 2 incredible throws that Derek talked about. But if you take those out of it and you look at his performance, he was affected by the Patriots defense big time. First time in a very long time, I can say that. The pass rush, the secondary wasn't the greatest, but the pressure that they got on him was consistent and made him uncomfortable. It's the first time in a long time I've seen that.
Absolutely. We talked about that. I mean, the defense I thought played well enough to win, and that's the big picture here. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but you look at what do they like to do against Josh Allen? Or what? Let me rephrase that. What do they try to do? Is keep him from making plays with his legs. Now, he made some of those by throwing the ball, but rushing, they did a great job on him, and he averaged less than 2 yards per carry when he ran the ball. So, and they took away the Bills' running game. The Bills only averaged 3.6 yards a carry as a team. So that was big. I thought the defensive line did a really good job. They didn't get a whole lot of sacks. They only had 2, but the pressure was there, and they were forcing him into moving, and he made some throws, that were not the most comfortable for him, and I think it showed up. But
the interception, it showed up, Steve. That interception.
Yeah. The interception, it showed up. And then, those 2 plays, I mean, that throw to Diggs was
sick.
That was incredible.
What are you going to do is exactly how you respond to that. What are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, that's just one of those plays you just have to tip your hat to the guy. Because if that was thrown anywhere other than exactly where it was, it's probably incomplete. It was just a perfect throw. And he can make those. And that other touchdown to Brown, they had everything covered. Allen got flushed out, and it looked like John Brown was stopping along the sideline next to Miles Bryant. And then when he turned upfield, I mean, he has such incredible speed. You saw him leave Bryant in the dust. And again, what are you going to do there? I mean, they schemed it up to cover him up. And then Allen threw another beautiful pass.
Yeah.
And Brown made a great reception in the end zone. And again, I mean, you can't fault anyone for that. You know, it's just stuff that happens. There was a few missed tackles in there, but that's going to happen during a game.
But against
overall,
Allen, this is one of the best performances I can remember.
Against the Bills?
Yes.
Yeah. Because they only scored 21 offensive points.
Right. And they're the litmus test right now. And Derek, I want to go to you because I'm looking at the game and I know they're going to do nothing. At the time, I'm thinking maybe they're going to sneak into the playoffs, but I know they're going to do nothing. I'm thinking moving ahead about the defense and also the offense too. More on the defense, I'm thinking they can keep most of these players intact, upgrade the secondary. We got something here. We got something to build on. And that to me was what was encouraging. I've not seen them being able to stop an elite quarterback, even a little bit. They did that in this game.
Yes, I think for the most part throughout the year, when they faced a good quarterback, the defense looked more average than, when they flexed their muscles against weaker competition, from under center. I think, Jonathan Jones being a free agent is a huge consideration here. Devin McCourty likely retiring, although nothing's official, just based on the way him and Matthew Slater acted after the game. You kind of lends you to believe that. Those are two big issues. But I think, Russ, to your point, you have Judon up front, who's not really a building block, but on the opposite side, you have Tavai and Uche, who I think both, showed some value. I thought Daniel Ekuale this season kicked his game up inside as a defensive interior lineman. Christian Barmore, I thought, had a really strong way to close out the year after having a slow start with injuries to begin. I thought Juwan Bentley probably had one of his best years, if not his best year as a pro. So I thought you saw some nice play from your players up front, but to your point, secondary is a concern. I think safety is a sneaky big need this season or this offseason for the Patriots, specifically a free safety. But cornerback is going to be one of the ones that's going to be on your top probably 2 or 3, needs for me. And that's going to be a big thing. But yeah, in this game, I thought the defense, it's always a little Jekyll and Hyde. Point being, with Bill Belichick as your head coach, are things going to be perfect? No, we've seen that the last few years. But your defense is going to be competitive because he's just that damn good at coaching up that side of the ball. I think Gerard Mayo and Steve Belichick also should deserve some credit for that.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about both of them in the second half of the show. Who's going to be the defensive coordinator? Well, they don't have one, but will they be making a call on that? Will they be forced to make a call on that? Talk about that in a little bit. Okay, Steve, over to you. Let's talk about the offense, and then that's how we're going to finish up talking about this game. Offense looked like an NFL offense, right?
It did. I mean, granted, that first series was I was like, oh my, it's going to be one of those games. I mean, they looked completely discombobulated, and the Bills were all over them. But then that second drive came, and they started chugging. And I was thinking that was an impressive drive. They went 9 plays, 74 yards. Mac Jones looked very comfortable in the pocket. And one of the things we've been talking about, they weren't throwing those 2-yard passes. They were throwing the ball beyond the sticks. They were completing them. I thought he looked fantastic on that drive. And, I thought the play calling, was really good. And they capped it off with a great play. Jacoby Myers, I still don't know how he came down and got his foot on the ground and dragged it like he did. That was incredible. And, for most of the game, the Bills dug in their heels. That's an excellent defense. So, but the fact that they should have scored 24 points. They went for that 2-point conversion when they were down. Right. But they scored 24 points, and really they should have had a shot at 28 with the that play in the end zone. But, if you can score that many points against the Bills defense, you're playing like an NFL offense.
Yeah.
So I thought they looked really sharp for much of this game. Yeah, the Bills, there was a lot of drives where they snuffed them right out, which they can do that against teams like Kansas City. So, I thought the offense, again, played well enough to win the game.
Okay. Just want to share this comment before I go to you, Derek. And thank you, Rosalie, for commenting. Love our Patriots. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate anyone that comments and listens, watches live. So thank you very much. All right, Derek, over to you. Let's talk about the Patriots offense through your eyes, but I want to do it a little bit different because I just went to Steve with what's like, an NFL offense. Let's focus on Mac Jones. Let's just get your thoughts on Mac Jones and how he played here.
He wasn't.
Is this one of his best games?
No, he wasn't good in this game. He looked comfortable. He looked comfortable at times, but he looked worse when you watch it back. I thought that this was one of the rare times this season. It might be the only time this season where I thought Patricia had a better day than Mac did.
Wow.
I thought that Mac Jones, there were some good throws. He had a few really nice passes to Parker. He had a couple of good plays, but I thought there was a lot of opportunity for him that he left plays out on the field in this game, and it was live. I thought this was closer to his Minnesota game where he looked comfortable. The offense looked moving. The offense in general, I thought, was better in this game because Patricia actually called a better game. When I watched it a second time, I was surprised by how many throws. I felt like the ball placement was not great for Mac, how he looked, how his feet, when his mechanics are not good, the ball placement is all over the place. And we know he doesn't have the arm talent to overcome things like that. And I thought that his feet placement specifically on a couple different dropbacks was just not good. I thought that there was, again, some good throws, but there were points left on the field, and I thought it was mostly from the quarterback in this game. Had nothing to do with play calling, had nothing to do with spacing, like I thought's been an issue all year. There were a lot of throws that were either low or behind the receiver, or things that he just flat out didn't see. Again, live, I thought it was different, but again, I think this might have been the only game all season that I watched back where I was like, wow, Patricia actually put players in a good position. Mac just wasn't able to execute.
Wow, Steve, I was not expecting that from Derek. I understand. I thought he was going on the interceptions, but that's not where he went.
No, the interceptions, only 1 on 3 were him.
He went on actual ball placement, which is very interesting, and mechanics, which now that he's saying it, I could see Derek's point. Agree or disagree?
I thought Mac played pretty well. The interceptions at the end. You guys are
disagreeing for the first time in a long time.
That's all right.
Yeah, well, I mean, he wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought he played well. I mean, they had a lot of pressure on him. Again, he was only sacked 1 time, but they were bringing pressure on him and forcing him to move quite a bit.
Yep.
And I thought he played, for the most part, within himself. He did a really good job, I thought, of scanning the field with the amount of time that he had. Yeah, there was some throws off, no doubt about it, but in the grand scheme of things, I thought he played well. The interception, the one to Aguilar, he wasn't able to step into the throw. They had pressure on him. That was maybe a play he should have tossed away.
Yep.
But and that was the only play call that I really, one of the only couple that I had issue with.
Okay.
Also, Aguilar's effort on that was
it was terrible.
I mean, just horrible.
Yeah, because for some reason he pulled up at the very end, and then he made no effort to go after the ball. I mean, I don't get it, but that was one of the calls, because I was like, why are you putting him in that situation and not, one of the other 3 guys? But it is what it is. I mean, I thought Mac played pretty well.
Okay.
The interceptions at the end, again, the one on Hunter Henry, there was a lot of Bills in that area, but he tried to gun it in there, and it was just a little too high. I think, if that ball was like maybe 4 or 5 inches lower, Henry comes down with that even in there. But, it bounced off his hand, and unfortunately, right to Matt Milano. The one at the end, again, they had pressure on him. He let it go too early. when I think that was Damian Harris.
Okay.
I'd have to look back. Yeah. By the time he turned around, the ball was right on him, and he only got a hand on it, and it bounced right to McKenzie. So,
yeah. I'll just say this too. I think, obviously, I respect Steve's opinion. He's one of my, well, you guys have been my close friends for over a decade. So if Steve and I disagree, it actually makes me, question my opinion on things. But I'll just say this: I don't think that Mac was great in this game. What I think, where I see what some people are saying where he was good versus he was bad, in my opinion, I thought it was because he looked more comfortable in the offensive play calling. And
that's fair.
And so
Derek.
that's where I thought there were a
Derek,
lot of
you're
throws.
entitled to your opinion, my friend.
No, you guys don't need to tell me that. You guys know I can. If I really wanted to bang the drum, I bang the drum. I just think that this offense actually looked like an offense where he was comfortable, and it looked like an offense that we could envision with this personnel on the field. And I thought that he looked comfortable at times, and that's why I think people got the perception that it was a good game. And again, maybe it was, but when I watched it back, I was disappointed because I was like, well, it did take him friggin' 4 months to get here, but hey, well, they're actually calling plays and the receivers aren't bumping into each other 10, 12 yards downfield, and things were in rhythm. Outside of a couple of 2nd and 20 draws, I wasn't really that upset with the play calling. So that's kind of where I don't know, only really probably Bill and the coaching staff can tell us who is right and who's wrong because we don't know everyone's responsibilities. But just when I watched it back, I thought that there were plays to be made by the quarterback that I just didn't think he made. But I thought that for the most part, it was like the Minnesota game, guys, where it was like, holy crap, where has this been all year long? It takes the last game, for this to happen. And and that's just one of those. And that's just one of those things where.
And again, like what you just said, the 2nd and 20 draw, I rolled my eyes at that. But, it's one of those situations where if it doesn't work, we're going to, like we used to always do with Josh McDaniels, what are you doing? But, if Stevenson gained 8 to 11 yards, we'd be like, oh, what a great call. Now it's 3rd and manageable. It's.
Well, if you're dead set on going for it on 4th down, the defense obviously isn't expecting a 2nd and 20 draw. So it's like you probably will pick up some yards. So it's like, okay, if you want to cut it to 3rd and 12 and you're going to go for it on 4th down, then okay, it's not the end of the world. I think they did one long draw and it worked. If I'm not mistaken, they did one long draw and it worked. The second one did not, but it was anyway. It just was one of those games, guys, where some of the play calling, I felt scratching my head, like, where was this? Like the majority of the year, it just didn't make any sense.
No, it's a good point. Guys, to finish this up real quick, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I have a theory. I've got a conspiracy theory.
I'll be right back, guys.
That's fine. It's something that I actually talked to you about, Steve. I do want to talk very quickly about the officiating. My theory is that there was a mandate coming from New York not to call a lot of penalties because of the situation with the Buffalo Bills and the player Hamlin. I think that they did not want many penalties in this game. I think that because you can't tell me there's no penalty for 3/4 of a football game, and then all of a sudden they go crazy with calling penalties. You tell me. That's my conspiracy theory, that this was a mandate from the league not to call penalties, maybe, or call very little, unless it was very obvious. Come on.
Well, they did call one on the Bills in the first quarter, but because the Patriots completed a pass,
that's right. That's right.
Then it was declined because they did flag them once for holding, and it was a pretty blatant hold.
All right.
Now, I don't know if it was a mandate from the league, but it certainly seemed like the officials were swallowing those whistles.
Yeah, that was just it just seemed
for 3/4.
I didn't hear what Russ's theory was, but I'm telling you right now, I have no problem with how the game was called initially until they changed their minds and towards the end of the game where they went from not calling anything to a couple of real ticky-tack fouls.
Calling everything. Yeah. I said to Steve that I thought maybe this was coming down from the league to not call many penalties unless they were really obvious.
I'm fine with that.
And I think for this specific game, because of the situation with Hamlin, I thought maybe with the emotions, they were going to not call many penalties. That was just my theory.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree. I thought there was two calls, one early in the game where there was a Bills player with his whole body across the line of scrimmage that should have been offside.
Thank you, Janice.
And I don't understand where there's a line judge on every play, a guy that's a referee that's standing on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that's missed. There was a bad call. I thought that was offensive or defensive pass interference against the Bills that should have been called late. And then there was a call against the Bills. That was the high low chop block. That was a terrible call. The Bills absolutely got robbed on that too. So I thought the officials had a really, really rough day. I thought early on, I'm okay. Just call the egregious ones. Just call the egregious ones. I'm good. If you want to let the players play, I would always lean towards that style of officiating.
But then they called Hunter Henry on that ticky-tack offensive pass interference.
Yep.
That's what set up that 3rd and 20.
Sure.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, good. Chris, I agree. I'm looking at Chris in the chat. Could the officials just not be very good? No, I have no idea why a multi-billion-dollar company doesn't have full-time officials that decide outcome of games, but we'll just get to that in the offseason.
That's entirely possible too, Chris. That maybe the officials just suck.
And by the way, it's hard when you have 22 guys who are all massive and are all fast. Even the fat guys are faster than most regular people can believe. So it's like, I know their job is hard, but at the same time, it's like, maybe we should put some more money in to make them full-time and have them practice in the offseason and things like that.
When a 300-pound interior defensive lineman is all the way across the line of scrimmage before the snap, I mean, come on. Stevie Wonder can see that one.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the future of the Patriots. This should be fun. Okay, guys, let's get to it. We're going to start with a little mea culpa from me. Russ reserves the right to change his mind. Now, I said this on a prior show. Get rid of Belichick. I was very adamant about this because I wanted change. I almost sounded like Derek in our messages going back and forth, working on emotion. Derek's like, let them get embarrassed. But then I actually thought about it now, a few weeks later, and came to my senses, I guess you could say, that he's not the problem. The problem really is the coaches on his staff.
But ultimately, that's on him.
Well,
because
it is on him. No, it's on him, but he is not the one that needs to be replaced. That's the way he needs to change. Now, I will say this. If he's not willing to change, then Russ reserving the right to change his mind goes out the window again.
I feel like after 10 years, I'm finally rubbing off on you with this whole thing. Well, you came in real strong with the take a couple weeks ago. You're kind of reneging on it a little bit.
I am reneging.
You are leaving.
I am.
You are leaving that window just slightly ajar.
Just a little.
Enough.
And
I'm with you, by the way. I couldn't agree with you more, which is why you should be terrified in your opinion right now. But it's like, I agree. I don't want Bill to
Chris's
go either.
last comment.
So. Okay, I haven't seen Chris's comments, so okay, let's see. Someone record the moment from oh God, Mr. Argon. Thank you very much there, Chris.
I will just say this. I agree with you. I think that right now the coaching staff is not where it needs to be. Now, I think on the defensive side, you have Gerard Mayo, you have Steve Belichick, you have DeMarcus Covington, you have there's one other guy. I'm trying to think. The defensive staff has more guys that have been around for a while, and I think that you don't see some of the issues that you do on the offensive side of the ball because I think you have just too many new guys. Now, I think Troy Brown has been around for a while, but I don't really know how well of a coach he is. And I know Vinny Sinceri on the same side has also been a pretty good coach, but I don't know when they move these guys to new roles. I can't tell you if they're good or bad at their jobs. I have no idea to know that. But what I do feel like I know is that we saw a first-time offensive coordinator, first-time offensive coach. By the way, the offensive coordinator was splitting time with an assistant offensive line coach to teach the offensive line. I thought that they were spread too thin and too inexperienced on the offensive side of the ball. And I thought more often than not, that's why you saw some of the issues, not all, some of the issues on that side of the ball. And that's why if I'm the Crafts, that them and Bill are going to sit down and talk about it. I mean, he has
supposedly
to be willing
they
to make
already
some big
are,
changes.
or they are going to very shortly.
Yeah, the Bill O'Brien has been thrown out there. Cliff Kingsbury has been thrown out there. Chad O'Shea has been thrown out there.
Derek, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. You're jumping a couple of steps.
I'm jumping the gun. Okay, I'll let you. Excuse me for going off the rails.
Play the game. Okay, you went off script. Play the game. Because I still want to talk about Bill. So I'm going to ask the question now. As you can imagine here, you guys don't live here anymore. You don't see it. You might see it a little bit on Twitter. So I'm just telling you, led by our lovely local media, I'm going to ask a question. Who'll be the head coach next season, Steve?
I think it's going to be Bill Belichick, but I won't rule out. I think the chances are slim that he gets replaced. I think they're very slim. But if he digs in his heels and he doesn't want to make a lot of changes to his staff offensively next year, I think there's an outside shot that the Crafts will relieve him of his duties. Okay. I don't think that's a big,
5 to 10%, maybe
under 10.
Under 10. Okay. Derek, how about you?
I agree with Steve. Yeah, I mean, I think that only if he digs in his heels.
Sure, you're not going to disagree with him after the last comment. So,
well, I mean, we've had maybe 2 disagreements a season, averaging the last 10 years.
2 disagreements in 11 years.
Yeah,
I know you guys are always in lockstep. It's
great minds think alike, baby.
That's true. I honestly though, I think it would really come down to an explosive disagreement between the Crafts and Bill. And I look. I thought it was interesting. I don't know what you guys think about this, but a different angle, kind of related, is the season ticket letter that went out, and it went out quick, real quick. And there was the comment that Bill made in his post-game presser about how much money the team has spent. I don't think these are intentional shots at each other, but I think that both are kind of making arguments.
I think they were shots.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're malicious, Steve. You know what I mean? I think that you can still take a shot, or you can still make a point and not be not. It's not I don't think they have a bad relationship. Let's put it that way. I just think Bill's yeah, Robert, we did spend a lot of money one year, but if you look at it as a 3-year picture, we're towards the bottom, and then Robert Kraft might be putting Belichick, and some pressure on him, being yeah, this wasn't good enough, and changes are coming because they're getting ahead of it. Changes need to be coming. Don't keep your season tickets, people. Keep spending that money. I don't know. I do feel as though that there needs to be some changes. I think Bill understands that. I just wonder. I know Bill likes to stay here, guys, even keel. I just wonder if he feels like they need to be as severe as maybe we do. Part of me, I have my doubts, but if I'm the Crafts, I'm talking to Bill and being that we got to do something here, Bill, because right now it's just not. It hasn't been good enough.
Okay, well, that's going to lead us to talk about this. Oh,
hold on,
go ahead, Steve.
Just one more point.
Sure, go ahead, Steve.
I don't know if you guys watched that interview on Sunday night on 60 Minutes with Prince Harry.
I did.
He said that every morning, someone would place all the tabloids in front of the Queen.
Yes.
And they would read them. I think somebody does the same thing to Bill Belichick.
Oh, I agree with that. That's a good point, Steve. I totally agree.
Because as we all know, Bill can be very vindictive if he thinks someone criticizing him for, a decision, whatever, is one thing. But if he thinks that they're going, I guess, beyond the pale, he can be very vindictive, and he doesn't take kindly to that.
No, that's a good point. That's actually a very good point. I remember that on 60 Minutes, all the tabloids are there for the Queen, and I think Bill gets the same kind of thing.
Well, that's
with
what
the local
I
media.
immediately thought of when I saw that, because I was like, somebody is putting that in front of Bill.
I like Bill even more now. I like Bill even more.
He says, I don't read none of that. But yet he'll take shots at people.
Oh, he knows all about it, Steve. He knows all about it.
No,
yes, he does.
He's very aware. Okay, so let's now talk about this. I want you to predict this. This is just a prediction. Derek, who'll be the play caller next season?
I'm going to go with Bill O'Brien.
So you think that they're going to make the move for Bill O'Brien?
I really honestly.
And what I hear is Bill O'Brien wants to come back to the area because he's got family here. So
he does, and I know that he has a son with a lot of issues that he needs to be in an area where he's comfortable with. And I know he's going to have interest. My honest, what I really think is going to happen is that I think Gerard Mayo is going to leave to become a defensive coordinator for a different team because he wants to be a head coach, but he really won't get that opportunity unless he becomes an official coordinator, which Bill won't give him here because of the relationship with Steve. So I think what's going to happen is I think Joe Judge is going to go to special teams. I don't know if Kim McCord gets fired, but I think Joe Judge takes over that. I think Matt Patricia takes over for Gerard Mayo and helps Steve Belichick. And then I think Bill O'Brien comes in with some new staffers on the offense, and that's how it goes.
Okay. Steve, let's start with play caller. Who's going to be the play caller next season?
I'm in agreement with Derek. I think the odds-on favorite is Bill O'Brien, but I will put a caveat on that. He has to train Nick Cali to take over his job because ultimately we know Bill O'Brien wants to be a head coach again.
Right.
Yep.
And so
what are the chances it will be Nick Cali?
Well, I think
better
it's
chance
been
Matt
floated around
Patricia.
Here, by the way.
Better chance it's Matt Patricia next season than Nick Cali. But
yeah, because when we all thought Nick Cali was going to get, I said that in the offseason. But the fact that they gave it to Patricia told me that Bill doesn't think he's ready. I don't know if he think he's ready after one more year. So I'm kind of leaning towards somebody else, and we all know Bill likes to hire somebody he's close to.
Right.
So, if
I'd be fascinated if it was Cali. The thing that we don't know is he upset that he was blocked from going to Vegas because, Bill said, hey, Nick, you're under contract. We need you to stay here. Nick was apparently heading to go with McDaniels to Vegas. I don't know if that pissed Nick off or not. That's something that we can't answer. But something that I have learned that I didn't know, just having a conversation with someone, is that how important being a tight end coach is to becoming an offensive coordinator. Because when you're a receivers coach or you're a running backs coach, you're focusing on one side or one part of the offense. But when you're a tight end coach, you're involved in the running game because of blocking, obviously different blocking schemes and passing. So you have an intricate knowledge of the entire offense, which is why so many offensive coordinators are either go up through the quarterback coach route or go through the tight end coach route. And I thought that was an interesting conversation. That I had, and it makes a lot of sense. And so the silver, or not the silver lining, but I guess the big question that we all can't answer is how Nick Cali feels about New England. That's something that we just don't know.
Right. Well, and I guess some of those hard feelings could be glossed over if Bill turns over the offense to him.
Thank you, Claire.
Hi, Claire.
Claire had to chime in. The minute she hears tight ends, she might be doing three different things, Steve. She hears tight ends, and all of a sudden, there's little bells that go off.
Ears burning. I'm 10,000 miles away from Claire right now, and I say tight ends. I could whisper it, and it's like ASMR to her. She's like, tight ends. All right.
Okay.
I would like to see them groom Nick Cali for that job. As I told Derek offline, we were talking on Sunday evening. I said, if the offense had struggled this year with the play calling and the design with Nick Cali, I could have lived with that because, he's a young guy. He's learning for the first time how to do all this. I could have lived with that. The fact that they went with Patricia, I was willing to give it a shot, but it didn't work. So,
Yeah. All right. Good stuff from the two of you.
Chris, I'm not going to be the official defensive coordinator.
Oh, is he asking for you? Yeah. No, it's actually.
No, he means Steve Belichick.
Oh. There's a Goldman for you. I didn't read it quick enough.
That's a good question, though, Chris. I honestly don't. I honestly thought about that the other day. I don't think it will happen, but I could see it potentially.
Well, I'm going right there, guys. Who's going to be the defensive coordinator? It sounds like Steve Balistrieri thinks another Steve B is going to be the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think he is going to get the title because Mayo is going to leave, as we all know. So I think he's going to get the title this year. And like I think Derek said that earlier in the show, if they move Patricia, because I think when I was talking to Derek, he was the one that, I think he was the one that told me that Steve calls the plays, which we all know.
Yes.
And Mayo makes the substitutions of the players.
Right.
So it's kind of
I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of a co-defensive coordinator thing, but Steve's the one calling the plays. I think if they give Steve the title and move Patricia, if they want to keep him on the field as taking over Mayo's role as the substitution chief there, or whatever they call him,
right?
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, he has a lot of experience on the defensive side of the ball. I don't want to see him be the coordinator. I want to see Steve do it. And with all the talk of nepotism about Steve, look at this defense. He's the guy calling the plays. Is there, again, we're going to this defense. They were good all season.
Steve, they were good, but it's funny. I think you're the only one, including myself. Derek, I don't know how you feel about it. No one's willing to give Steve Belichick credit. You realize this. No one's willing to give him any credit because of Bill. No one's willing to do it.
Well, that's why so many people have
said you got
said
to give him credit.
If so many people have said, if Steve really wants to be a head coach, and maybe he'll get the opportunity when Bill's done, but he needs to leave the nest and kind of do it somewhere else. And I get that.
You don't know if he wants to be a head coach. You don't know this.
No, I don't. But I don't know a whole lot of coaches who are willing to put in that kind of time in that league, because the amount of time that they put in, that don't have bigger aspirations than just positional coaches or unnamed coordinators. I mean, so I agree. I don't know it, but I also can, you also can kind of get there if you kind of talk it out. But anyway, I'm curious to see what would happen if Gerard leaves. I'm assuming Gerard leaves. Like Steve just said, that's how the information was relayed to me. Gerard runs meetings more because he's a little less socially awkward, and because he's a player, so the players have that connection with him, and that Gerard and DeMarcus Covington, who was the linebackers coach and was a defensive line coach this year, they're in charge of substitutions on and off the field while Steve calls plays. Obviously, Bill has influence on that defense like no other. We understand that. But I do think it'd be interesting to see him actually get the title. It's just I mean, we've heard guys talk about it in the past, how players, I'm saying for the Patriots, say, it's a little confusing if we don't know exactly who we should talk to. I think that I understand why Bill doesn't do the title thing, but I also think a little bit's overrated. Like, I would like to see them name coordinators this season and make and not have kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I would like them to make some. I think defensively, they have the personnel on their team to have a good defensive coaching staff. I cannot say the same for the offense, which is why I think they need to look out elsewhere on the offensive side, where defensively, I think they can stay in-house. Okay,
now, Chris, to answer your question, I'll take this on, guys, if you want to chime in as well. I don't think this will ever happen. I unfortunately think that the bridge has been burnt between Belichick and Flores. I think he's kind of in the Mangini category right now. Not that I agree or disagree, but because of how everything went down, I don't see that. I would love to see Brian Flores back. I think Brian Flores should be a head coach. I'm a big fan of him. Steve, I don't see this happening. Am I wrong?
I don't see it happening either, just because Bill doesn't want to undermine Steve.
Okay, so you're going that way. You don't think that there's any personal situation?
No, I don't think there's a problem. I mean, I don't think he's in Mangini category because, Bill texted him. I don't think Bill was happy when he used that as his evidence,
right,
of whatever it was with Miami. Right. But yeah, on the whole thing with the Giants when Dayball got the job. So anyway, I don't think there's that. But, Bill's grooming Steve to be, the defensive coordinator. I think he already is. But at the same time, with Mayo, they wanted to promote Mayo as well, so they gave him like a co-defensive coordinator type of title, non-title.
Make him
and so
I got an idea. I got an idea with Gerard Mayo, and I don't know if this will go, and they've been talking about it here. Make him assistant head coach. Do something like that. Because Belichick actually had that, I think, title when he came up here for that 1 year under Parcells. Make him some kind of like special coach, Steve. No?
I don't know. I think Mayo, just like Derek said earlier, he wants to get out of the nest.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're probably right.
And, he's already got some head coaching feelers out there. He's been interviewed a few times. I think if he gets that coordinator role this year, he'll be a head coach next year.
No, that's a good point. It's a good point. All right.
And the one thing we didn't mention, they need a really good quarterback coach.
No, I totally agree with that. And that's going to lead to talk about the quarterback to end the show, guys.
Perfect.
So, Derek.
It all comes full circle.
Who will be the quarterback next season? Will it be Mac Jones?
Unless he requests a trade. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know what you'd get for him anyway, but I would love to hear the reports. Actually, I would not love it, but I would be fascinated to see and hear the reports if it comes out that the Patriots are keeping Patricia as offensive coordinator, what Mac Jones would do. I honestly would be fascinated by it. I would not like to see it because I think Patricia needs to be, recast. And right. I want to see Mac Jones. I've said this a couple times to people. I know that it's funny, Mac Jones is very polarizing into this fan base. Some people really believe in him. Some people don't. I've had plenty of people reach out to me, think that the Patriots would have won this game last Sunday if Bailey Zappi was under center. I couldn't disagree more, even though I was critical of Jones' performance. I think Mac Jones will be the quarterback. I think he should be the quarterback. And I think it would be negligent to move on from him at this point. Look, his rookie year, they won 10 games and they made the playoffs. And he looked like a quarterback with some promise. His second year, they moved some things around and he struggled. And there was a lot of weird issues and they went 8-9. I want to see the coaching staff built up on the offensive side of the ball. I want to see them make a couple changes to their personnel, and I want to give him another full year before I make that determination. I firmly believe he will be the quarterback next year. If you want to tell me you don't believe in him long term, I'm willing to accept that conversation. That's a fine conversation. Everyone has an opinion, but I've seen him play better than he did this year. We saw it last year, and I think that with better circumstances around him, I think that the team would have ascended. Now, I also will say to you, I'm starting to, this year certainly made me question his ceiling, but I know that the floor is higher because we've seen it in the past.
Okay. Steve, before I go to you, I just want to answer this to Chris. Do the Patriots need to start planning for a future new head coach? Now, here's the issue with that. You can't have succession plans because of the Rooney Rule. You can't do that anymore. You can't. You absolutely cannot do that. Because you have to interview black coaches, which I actually agree with minority coaches. I agree with that. So you can't have that plan. You can't do that anymore. So I just wanted to mention that.
I also would just interject real quickly and say that I also don't think that anyone on Bill's staff, I'm hoping the Crafts, when Bill is done, I'm hoping the Crafts just go in an entirely different direction.
I agree with that.
I've gone back and forth on that for a long time. There was a period of time where I wanted Caserio to be the GM, and I want McDaniels to be the head coach. And I've moved on from that. I think that when Bill is done, I think that you need a clean break and a full cleanse of the organization. And I don't mean that in a bad way necessarily. Yep. I just think that you've done things for so long and for so long with the same group of people. I think it would be good to put, a totally different group of people in place and make this a totally new chapter when that time comes. Okay.
Steve, back over to you to the topic at hand. Who'll be the quarterback next season?
It has to be Mac Jones. Has to be. Like Derek said, his rookie year, he had a very good rookie season. As rookie quarterbacks go, you look at the numbers he put up, and he won them 10 games, got them into the playoffs. That was a promising start. No one was saying he was great last year. He wasn't great, But, when you're considering a rookie quarterback coming in, and get handed the reins like he did, he put up a good season. And remember, they kept the shackles on him for most of last season. They wanted to keep his confidence up. We were all looking forward to seeing what he could do with some improved weapons. It didn't work out that way. The offensive coaches changed things around. It never got unfolded the way they envisioned it. We saw that from the beginning of training camp. The offensive line, which was supposed to be a strength, was not. It was the exact opposite. And when you put those two factors together, I think his regression, that's what you can point your finger at. So, let's see what happens next year. They're going to have to get a new play caller in, a new quarterbacks coach in, and see where we go from here. But he has to be the quarterback. These people that are calling for Bailey Zappi to be the starter next year, come on, folks.
Yeah.
He's not going to be the starter. And
no.
Especially a lot of people are calling for them to trade for Derek Carr.
No.
And I'm totally against that.
Well, I think Derek Carr will probably be a free agent, but I've heard things about trading for Aaron Rodgers because he's under contract. I'm good. I'm all good. I would rather go into the draft again and redraft a rookie quarterback than any of those options.
Agreed, Derek. I'm with you guys. I go with Mac Jones, and then if you feel he's not the guy, I do go into the draft, and I'm not sure if he is the guy.
I still think that would be, honestly, guys, the way I've put this too, and I'll say this, and I'm sure I'll say this a couple times this offseason. If you don't believe Mac Jones is the guy long term, I can't argue with you because we haven't seen enough.
No.
But I would say that this situation the Patriots have as an offense right now isn't good for any quarterback. They don't have a good coaching staff in place. I think the offensive line needs help, and there's going to be some turnover at the receiver position because of contracts and because they just need to make some changes.
Right.
So I don't want to put a rookie in that situation. I would rather try to make those changes to be more quarterback friendly and give Mac another chance because you invested a first-round draft pick in him. And while you make those changes, if he proves that he cannot be that guy, at least the situation is good for whoever would be the next in line. And to me, that's where I stand on it too. Whether you like him or not, the team invested a high draft pick in him 2 years ago. You need to make sure that you put him in the best position to succeed. And if he fails, it's because of him and not the situation around him. And if the situation around him is good, you'll feel better about whoever's next if you move on from him.
Okay, good stuff, Derek. All right.
And to earlier, you guys were talking about the succession plan for Bill.
Right.
That's when I'd bring back Brian Flores.
Okay. Yeah. Well, see, I wouldn't mind if Brian Flores was the next head coach of the New England Patriots. I think he deserves enough. That's a great call, Steve. I would love to see him be the successor. I'm there with you because I think he's going to make a great head coach.
Yeah, he was officially the linebackers coach for the Steelers this year. His next ascension will be going to be a defensive coordinator for a different team this year. I firmly believe he'll get that opportunity, and then he'll become a head coach within the next 1 or 2 years. So I would
love to have him back.
The timeline is definitely in the the conversation because I think Bill has 2 more years. But that's just my guess, total guess. So we'll see.
I think we've been saying 2 years for the past 10 years, but
the past 10 years. So we're 12 years from now. Yeah. We'll be wheeling him out, for training camp in a few years. And
that's right. He'll be Fat Elvis by then. Okay. So let's wrap up this show. For Derek Havens and Steve Balestrieri, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Patriots Fourth and Two, the official podcast of PatsFans.com.